Today we're going to talk about a very interesting topic. Very difficult also, and I hope by the end of the talk I would have successfully explained a very difficult concept in an easily understandable way. Okay, now, 5 aggregates. Where do you find the 5 aggregates first appear? In the Four Noble Truths, right? Correct? And if I go on to the next slide. Should we? Oh, here. Sorry, okay. Now, the Four Noble Truths, you all know about the Four Noble Truths first. The first Noble Truth, okay. Sorry, I'm not. Okay. The Noble Truth of Suffering. Okay. Okay. The Four Noble Truths. Now, in the first Noble Truth, Buddha talked about the Noble Truth of suffering. Buddha says that birth, decay, disease, and death is suffering, correct? Association with the unpleasant is dukkha. Separation from the beloved is dukkha. When one does not obtain what one desires is dukkha. But in the first Noble Truth, it stated that in brief, the 5 aggregates of grasping is suffering. So the first Noble Truth first explained to us that in a nutshell, the 5 aggregates of grasping is actually suffering. Now, if you move on, Buddha went on to explain what is this 5 aggregates of grasping. Monks, I will explain to you the burden, the laying hold of the burden, the holding on to the burden, and the laying down of the burden. Okay. Listen, what monks is the burden? And now, what do you understand by burden? Burden is something that is very difficult to bear, mentally and physically, a source of stress and a source of worry. So before we can explain to you why this is a burden, we need to know what are the aggregates. But we just move on to what he says. Siew. Okay. The 5 groups of clinging is the answer. Which 5? They are the group of clinging to form, to feelings, to perceptions, to mental formations, to consciousness. These monks is called the burden. So now we know. The burden is when you cling on to these 5 aggregates. Okay, what are the 5 aggregates? Pancha Khanda. You know what Khanda means? Khanda in Pali means pile, a heap or a mess. All right? Here. Form is the first aggregate. Then you have feeling, Vedana, perception, Sanya, mental formation, Sankhara, consciousness, Vijnana. Now, on its own, the 5 aggregates do not give rise to any suffering. But it's only when they create conditions for craving, then the aggregates give you dukkha. I need to explain this a bit, just bear with me. All right, the 5. Now, it becomes a condition for craving is when you cling on to the 5 aggregates. That's when you talk about Upadana Khanda. Now, if you look at the Khanda Sutta, it is defined here, whatever aggregate, past, future or present, internal or external, blatant or subtle, common or sublime, far or near, is clingable, offers sustenance, and is accompanied with mental fermentation. So when you cling on to something, you are not letting go, is it not? So you understand the idea of clinging? It becomes, you nourish it. When you cling on to something, you're actually nourishing it. Okay, just let me give you a very simple example. Someone called you stupid. in front of a few people. You're not happy about it, but since you want to exercise right speech, you just let it go. But when you come home, you're not very happy. How dare he call me stupid? Okay? Then that night before you sleep, you decided to do metta meditation because he called me stupid, so I need to do some meditation to forgive him. Then the next day comes, you saw your sister, and you complain to your sister that your friend called you stupid. So in a sense, aren't you clinging on to what the friend said? You have just called yourself stupid 3 more times. Is it not? So the idea of clinging is that you are not able to let go. Okay, now, clingable, huh? This is called the clinging aggregate. Now, if you look at this, do you see this picture? Now, we are the 5 aggregates. This is how Buddha had described us. 1 part is rupa, that is the body, and 4 parts, the mind. Okay? Now, if you hang around with a friend, for example, I am a good friend with somebody. It's not because of the way that somebody looks, isn't it? Because you can connect with that person, because of the person's character and the person's integrity and disposition. And the person's, in essence, the person's mind, how the person thinks, right? How the person thinks determines how he speaks and how he acts. And therefore, it makes sense, does it not, that in the 5 aggregates, 1 is rupa and 4 is mental. See? Feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. So essentially, in a nutshell, we are just body, feeling, perception, mental formation, and consciousness. So let's explain each one. Huh? Then we know exactly who we are, what am I. All right, let's talk about rupa. Rupa is just basically matter. And first, we have the 4 elements. We are essentially made up of the 4 elements. First, you have earth. Earth, a function of support and foundation, like, for example, our bones. Water is a cohesion function. Scattered atoms are cohere because of water. Then you have heat, vitalizing energy responsible for preservation. What's the difference between a body that's alive and a body that's dead? One is cold, one has heat. Then we have air. Air, principle of motion and pressure. Now, we're just made up of the 4 elements, the same elements you find in nature. So that's the reason why when you go to a funeral and a body in a coffin gets cremated, and later on the ash comes out, you see there's no difference between the ash of the body and that of the coffin, isn't it? So now we know we are just made up of the 4 elements, founded upon the earth element, held together by the water element, maintained by the heat element, and distended by the air element. Now, you will say, okay, this is the body. Now let me ask you, what is the most important thing in your body? Which organ? The heart, correct? Heart stops beating, you die. But then why is it in your IC photograph, you don't find your heart there? You have your face. What is so special about this face? You notice on your face, you have your sense doors. You have your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your ears. Right? Your brain is there, and of course, the feeling of touch also there. Okay? Matter located in the 5 sense organs. Now, the world and us, the body in itself without the sense doors cannot function. What's the connection between this body and the world around us? Our senses, isn't it? Our sense doors. Let's look at the 5 sense organs. you have the eye. Okay, the eye is a sense organ. In the sense, there's a sensitive material substance in the retina, together with light, gives you sight. Then you have the ears. The nose, the tongue, and the body, the 5 sense organs. Because of the sense doors, we are able to see form, hear sound, nose smell, taste, and touch. And these we call the sense objects. Okay? You understand this? Now, if I show you the next slide. But all often and not in the suttas, right, we see references to the 6 sense bases. What's the extra up here? What's the new thing? Different from the 5 sense doors. The mind. Can you see? The mind. Don't forget that is also a sense door. So what is the sense object of the mind sense door? Eyes is what you see, right? I see you, you are the sense object. I hear music, the sound, that is a sense object. I eat char kway teow is the sense object. For the mind door, what is the sense object? Thoughts, so imagination, ideas. Okay. Now, the sense bases open the world outside to our inner world to be tasted, to be heard, to be felt, to be thought about, and to inhale. So now, let's talk about this body. The 3 universal characteristics, do you know? What are the 3 universal characteristics of all existence? It is anicca, dukkha, anatta, right? Anicca, impermanence. Is this body permanent? No. We know it's not, because while I'm talking to you, we're all aging day by day, minute by minute. So we all know this. We will die. I can bet you with every fortune that I have that you will die. Then next thing you know, is it satisfactory? Do you think this body is satisfactory? First, we need to feed this body. This body needs to eat. We eat too much, we get bloated. We don't eat enough, we are hungry. We need to bathe this body, because if we don't bathe, we stink. We need to exercise to keep fit, so the muscles will remain strong. This body is unsatisfactory because it gets sick without our permission. We don't want to get ill, but sometimes we do get ill. So the body is prone to diseases, viruses, liver spots, pains, aches, cramp. And if you take MC from the office, right, if you're going to go to work, is it because of what? Because of bodily pain. So we know, right, that this body is not satisfactory. How about the last universal characteristic? Non-self. So can you say this body belongs to you? If this body really belonged to you, you'll be able to say, hey, hello, I want to be like this. I want to have abs. I want to have double eyelids. I want to be beautiful. But you can't. This body has an ecosystem of its own. People who have cancer, do you think they want cancer? They don't want it. But when cancer hits, they have to do something about it, and you have to rely on external help. In that sense, it is not self. You cannot say this body belongs to you, because if it really does, you can have full control over it. Now, remember the first few slides? Buddha taught us that if you cling on to the aggregates, it becomes a burden and is suffering, dukkha. So if you cling on to this body, what happens? If you cling on to this body, you measure your worth by how you look. Don't you think that is trouble? Because you'll never be contented with the way you are, the way this body looks. Hey, you can't help it, don't genetic pool, but you will never, you compete, you go to plastic surgeon, do something about it. So And on top of that, you will not age well, because you cannot accept the reality, because you cling on to that healthy body, but this body fades. If you understand the nature of your body, you don't cling on to the body. You will not lament when you age. You will not lament when you are sick. Because when the body has aches and pain, you understand that this is the way it is. Your body may be in pain, but does that mean your mind has to react in pain? Because if your mind does so, that means double pain. Okay? So understand the first aggregate. So if you cling on to this body, you also take a very long time to die. Can you imagine upon death? More suffering. Okay, so you understand now what is the first aggregate form. Okay, I move on to the next aggregate. See, okay. You're made up of body. Next aggregate is Vedana. Feelings. Okay, take your time to enjoy this slide. Now, Buddha spoke of different kinds of feelings to demonstrate the different ways the Dhamma can be presented. In one way, O monks, I have spoken of 2 kinds of feelings, and in other ways of 3, 5, 6, 18, 36, and 108 feelings. Why? Because different people react differently with regard to the same object, isn't it? Let me give you a very simple example. Ice cream. Feeling is not about the taste of the ice cream. It is about how the taste is perceived in the mind. Agree? So let's say, for example, when I taste the ice cream and a young man like Scott tastes the ice cream, it's different, because to me, ice cream is poison. Okay, because older, I have to be more careful, but when you're young, ice cream gives you a different kind of feeling. Okay, so Buddha has categorized feelings into many, many types in the suttas. Let's have just a quick glance through. If you talk about 2 types, it's just body and mental. 3 types, pleasant, painful, neither pleasant nor painful. 5, you can read on your own. If 6, that's why you know, right? The 6 sense doors, huh? Is 18. Let me explain a little bit the gladness and sadness. Why times 6? Huh? For example, I use eyes, for example. You see corpse, a dead body, and you see flower. One is gladness, one is sadness through eye. Then through the nose, smelling rubbish and smelling perfume. Different, huh? Feel, sleep on the mattress, sleep on the floor. Taste, you take strawberry juice vis-a-vis herbal medicine. Okay? Mind door, you think of your children vis-a-vis thinking about your enemy. If you talk about the 6, through the different 6 sense doors, right? Gladness times 6, sadness times 6, equanimity times 6. Because some things, sense objects, do not evoke a pleasant or unpleasant feeling. It's just neutral. Like, for example, chair, tables. Correct? Okay. 36. 108. Feelings also about future, present, past. Now, in the Abhidhamma and in the suttas, more often than not, Buddha categorized the feelings into 3 types, which is pleasant, not pleasant, and neutral. And for today's talk, I'm just going to touch on this category, okay? Now, Vedana. Okay? They are all not mutually exclusive. If you have a pleasant feeling, the other 2 cannot exist. All right? Mutually not mutually exclusive. All 3 cannot exist at the same time. And how do we have feelings? Arises from the contact through the 6 sense doors. Now, what is contact? Okay, contact is when you have a sense organ, a sense object, and a sense consciousness. Who came for Sister Siew's talk on the six sets of 6? Only, okay. Okay, so you understand contact. So you have contact. Now, feeling in itself is really no big deal, no, brothers and sisters. It is how we react to feeling, by clinging on to feelings, that gives it a whole new dimension. Okay, let me just look at it. 6 sense doors, when you look at something, either pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Okay? And then the problems come. The problem comes when you are craving, chasing after that pleasant feeling and running away from the unpleasant feeling. Okay, let me just give you an example. Some people work very, very hard for holidays because they come alive when they go on a holiday. They save a lot of money, then they're very happy on a holiday. The moment they come back on the plane, it's despair because you're going back to the mundane life. Okay, maybe this is extreme, but let me give you another example. I don't like to work because I only leave when weekends come. Wow, Friday TGIF, weekend I enjoy. Then Monday you go back to work, sian ji bua. Then you go to work, you just prod along, cruise along, you work with probably not that great a mental state. Every day is just sian. You live till the next weekend comes. Because that's how people live life, chasing after that pleasant feeling. So you do not know how to enjoy neutral feeling. So your mind is always going forward. Now, look at feeling on its own. Is it anicca? Is it impermanent? It does not last, right? How many plates of char kway teow can you eat? How many plates of chicken rice can you eat? Can the pleasurable feeling last? It does not. Because if it really lasts, then all the ladies here will have one handbag. But we all have many handbags. And guys also, right, have a lot of watches. Because feeling dies off and you chase for that pleasurable feeling again. How about the fact of the mind door? Remember the mind door? If you look at the movie is entertaining your mind. Do you think the second time you watch it, fine, because I loved it? Would you watch it again, the third and the fourth time, and find it just as entertaining? No, it's anicca. All right? Is it unsatisfactory? It's unsatisfactory because it doesn't last. Because you keep having to chase for it, to nourish it, to cling on to it. That is why people, because they keep chasing for that the pleasurable feeling, they get addicted to it. They drink alcohol, knowing that alcohol is very bad for the liver, but they still drink it because they want to have that pleasurable feeling again and again. Correct? Now, when you drink alcohol, what happens? The mind quietens down, the body relaxes. Pleasurable. That is exactly the same as meditation. Okay? People eat unhealthily, fried food. You chase and eat again and again because it's so pleasurable, knowing that fried food is so bad for the heart. So it's unsatisfactory because it doesn't last. And you can get addicted. You need to chase for it again and again. Now, if it's unsatisfactory, it's anicca, can you say that feeling is self? That that this is you? If feeling belongs to you, you own that feeling, then you're saying that feeling is a fixed entity, right? But feeling depends on causes and conditions. As long as there's contact, you will have feelings. correct? It is, you can't avoid it. Feelings will come, pleasurable, unpleasurable, or neutral. And whether it is 1, 2, or 3 depends on the sense object. So if feelings depend on causes and conditions, it's anicca, it's unsatisfactory, you cannot say you own that feeling itself, because sometimes you just cannot help what comes out. Agree? Okay. So, brothers and sisters, feeling is just feeling. If you cling on to that feeling, you cling on to this aggregate, you will get caught up in feelings. When the pleasant feelings are there, you enjoy it. Neutral, fine, peace and tranquility. When there's unpleasant feeling, acknowledge it, not to react to it, and it will fall away, because everything will pass. Like, for example, I went to an autopsy. I saw 6 bodies get cut up in front of me. Is it unpleasant? Yes. But if I get caught up in this unpleasant feeling, I will get very traumatized, okay? Let me tell you that. Okay? So, to be at the end of the day, feeling is just feeling. How we react to it is what makes all the difference. Okay? So, let me move on. Ready to go to the next aggregate? Okay, so we're made up of body, feelings. Next, perception, sanya. Now, perception is actually through the senses, right? We perceive things, right? From hearing, seeing, tasting, touch, smell. Now, the 6 sense doors, is basically perception means you label something, you infer, and you interpret. That's all. And what is perception? These 6 classes of perception: perception of form, perception of sound, of smell, of taste, of tactile sensation, of ideas. This is called perception. Okay, again, the 6 sense doors. Right. And then why do you call it perception? Because it perceives. Thus, it is called perception. What does it perceive? It perceives blue, it perceives yellow, it perceives red, it perceives white. Because it perceives, it is called perception. But how do you know that it's blue or red or white? So perception, right, draws on our memory and our past understanding. Can you imagine the first time you drank tea? Someone told you, your mommy said, this is tea. The flavor, oh, this is tea. So the next time you drink tea, you know that it is tea. All right? So sanya is about the past. Sanya. Oh, soap. Okay, go back. Sanya is the mechanism that collects and stores the data of experience. So we all know, right, that perception is not from out there. Perception is from inside here. It makes up everything that we know. How we experience this world and how we experience one another. Right? So perception differs from person to person, right? Can you imagine you have the story of this big elephant with 7 blind men feeling the elephant at different spots because they will tell you differently what the elephant is like. So in summary, recognition in accordance with previously acquired mundane knowledge, such as perception of colors, of shapes, of symbols and sounds. You can guess or not? You know what this is, right? Okay? Perception. Recognition in accordance with social manners and ways, such as gentlemanly, friendly, socially unacceptable, and sacrilegious. Recognition in accordance with personal preferences and ideas, such as, that doesn't look good, this must be delicious. That is a repulsive smell. By the way, the Thais know how to eat their durians, okay? Just right, when the durian hasn't turned bad. Less sulfuric acid. But Singaporeans love to eat rotten durians, right? Different perception. Let me ask you, is perception anicca, impermanent? It is, right, because perception changes through time, depending on causes and conditions again. You see, you think differently when you are younger, a teenager, in your 20s, when you get married, when you become a mother, and you become old. Perception changes, anicca. When you're a young girl of 8, you let them both share one Barbie doll. Chances are they will fight over this Barbie doll. You give a Barbie doll to 2 women who are 35 years old, they will say, you can have it. It's anicca. Is it unsatisfactory? Is it dukkha? If you have suffering in life, it is also because of your perception of life, isn't it? You see, how I wish that it's satisfactory. That means the moment I'm born, the moment I'm 21 years of age, my perception changes to right view and right intention under the Noble Eightfold Path. But no, because it depends on the causes and conditions. So I only got to know true Dharma later in my life. So perception is dependent. So if it's satisfactory, we were all born with the right perception. Agree? So that is the reason why, for Buddhism, we need to study, we need to practice, and then we can realize. You cannot just chant your way to Nibbana. You need to learn, because you need to have right thought, right intention. So knowledge is important because it affects our perception. Does it belong to you? Is it self? Again, if it's impermanent, it's unsatisfactory, you cannot say that perception is a fixed entity and it belongs to you, because it changes. Okay? Sorry, looking for the cursor. Okay. Okay. Okay, sorry guys. Okay. Okay, got it. Okay, so repeat. What are we made up of? Number 1, body. Number 2, feelings. Number 3, perception. Shall we take a break now? Then I come back for the next 2. Okay, so we take a short 15-minute tea break. Then we come back for the last 2, and then I will conclude. Why is it important that we need to know the 5 aggregates? Okay? Thank you. Now, the next aggregate, sankhara. Okay, before I move on, let's revise. You're made up of, first, body, form, next, feelings, and perception. And in itself, anicca, dukkha, anatta. Don't cling on to them, right? You cling on to them, suffering. Next, sankhara. Now, what is sankhara? Means some, from the word together. Kara means doing or making. Together and doing means acting in concert, in combination, all right? So there's a lot of interpretation of sankhara. You can see, You see, to me is I like to use the word sankhara. Somehow it's like you can't find a definition that aptly describes sankhara. There are a lot of definitions out there, just the same the word dukkha. So to me, is the best definition I personally favor is mental proliferation. It's this mind tends to proliferate with a lot of thoughts. Now, sankhara is important to know. You are made up one part sankhara. Why? Because this mental proliferation is what shapes and fashions our mind, isn't it? Correct? So if a person is sad, it's because the person has sad thoughts. If the person is happy, that means the person has happy thoughts. So what you hold in your mind on a consistent basis is what makes you you. Correct? So understand that your one part, one aggregate is sankhara. Now, you are what your mind makes it out to be. And what you think conditions your actions and your speech. Okay, you can see, you can read from the slide. Okay. So in sankhara, which mental factor is the most important? Intention. Okay? Intention means you make a choice, a decision. Cetana is the word, the Pali word for intention. It's the most important because intention is what fashions your thoughts. So let's say, for example, I intend to kill somebody. Can you imagine what kind of thoughts I will have? I must plan the killing lah. I must think about all the nasty thing this person does to me lah. All unwholesome. But what do you say? I intend to be a good meditator. Then what kind of thoughts come along with that? All right, intention fashions your mind. It determines your mental state. That is the reason why intention is the most important mental factor. What one intends, what one plans, and what one obsesses about. This is a support for the stationing of consciousness. There being a support, there is establishing of consciousness. Okay? You can read the ballot, what one intends. Intention provides the conditions for the arising and the sustenance of consciousness. In fact, intention has a main role in causing rebirth. You may want to read this below. If, upon death, you have the intention to have a rebirth, you will have a rebirth. It's just whether you go up, you go down, depending on your karma. Okay? So, intention generates the karma, does it not? Because intention gives rise to good or bad mental states. Therefore, sankhara, refers to the quality of the mind and intention, and karma is produced here. Any kind of intentional action, whether mental, verbal, or physical, is regarded as karma. Karma refers to all wholesome and unwholesome intentions. Intentions that are neutral are karmically unproductive. No intentions, no karma. So for example, you're walking along the street, you step on some ants and kill a lot of them. You have no intention, no karmic fruition. Okay? Now, all karma, whether good or evil, bears fruit. There is no karma, no matter how small, that is void of fruit. So what we put in our minds, only we can take out. We are the master and we are the controller of our own karma. Even a small intention is of no consequence. Even though you feel there's no consequence, not particularly important, but nevertheless, it adds a tiny speck of karma into this stream of consciousness, and it will have, as long as we have karmic energies, we will continue to experience the fruition of these energies, whether in this lifetime or the next. So be very careful about your intention. Okay? Make sure that it's always wholesome. Sankhara. And what are fabrications? If you just read this part. Again, it comes back to the six sense doors, right? Sankhara is actually proliferation or fabrications. You call it whatever you want. It's just a lot of thinking. But people are so caught up in their thinking, they cling on to their thinking, and this leads to a lot of craving. For example, if you go to shop, you go shopping, you don't need anything. Instead of buying what you need, you buy out of what you want. So you land up with another handbag or you land up with another dress. Because you rationalize, right? I need another dress. Okay, I don't mind, I pamper myself. No, actually, I'm going for Christmas party. So I need something new. So it's a lot of thinking. All this mental proliferation leads to the craving. Or I justify why you have to eat unhealthy food. 久久吃一次, never mind, long time, just eat once in a while. So understand that the thinking is the rationalizing. The thinking equates to the excuses. Okay. Now, you look at this. Are you familiar with this dependent origination? This explains essentially rebirth. But dependent origination is a topic that I have to give a talk on its own. So I'm not going to go into detail. Just know that conditioning factor is a conditioning factor in dependent origination. What one intends, what one plans. Now, in a Sunday talk by Ajahn Tirapanyo, a youth asked him, what is the difference between Sankhara and Sanya? Okay? And he says that Sankhara deals with the future, Sanya, perception, deals with the past. Okay. What you are thinking now, while you are moving forward, even though you say perception, sometimes I think about the past, but you are thinking about past while moving forward. You understand what I'm saying? So it is, Sankhara determines your future, Sanya is about drawing from your memories, drawing from past understanding. Very sad, right, if you cannot let go of the past. Meaning that you cannot escape from the past and you let the ghost of the past haunt you. So that's how a lot of people live life, right? Cannot let go of the past, worrying about the future. Cannot let go of the past, worrying about the future. Very seldom at today. Very seldom at now. All right? So remember, you live today very well. You take care of tomorrow already. When tomorrow comes, you have a good yesterday. Live one day at a time. Do what you need to do for today, you are fine. Live mindfully, mindful of thinking, mindful of speech, mindful of actions. Now, let me sum up again. Is it anicca? Yes, thoughts come and thoughts go. Change all the time. 80 to 50,000 to 80,000 thoughts a day, depending on your sense objects. Is it unsatisfactory? Is it dukkha? Yes, mind is so noisy. It can loop. People who are depressed, the mind goes around in circles. Lots of bad thoughts when you're angry and you suffer and you're very sensitive to the mind and you've meditated for a while. You realize that the mental energy of anger is super heavy, And it's unsatisfactory is when you go into samadhi and you realize what is the higher happiness that comes from a quiet mind. When your mind is quiet, that's when you have peace, tranquility, and equanimity. And is it self? Do you own these thoughts? See, when you go into samadhi and you contemplate on the 5 aggregates, when your mind is still, and then you see thoughts start to rise, it's just energy. It is no self-substance there. It is not self. When you first start meditating, you see thoughts fall. But when you go into samadhi, you can even see. Before the thought rises, you're so mindful. When thoughts rise, it's just energy. And then it falls away. And you truly realize anatta in the sankhara. Okay? See we? Okay. Understand sankhara? Okay, so revision. What are the first 4 aggregates? Form, feelings, perception, mental proliferation or mental formation, sankhara. The last one, vijnana. This one means what? Consciousness. Awareness through the 5 senses and the mind. Seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, experiencing sensations through the body and experiencing mental objects. The awareness. Let me for consciousness to arise, there must be an object. Explain this to you, okay? Contact. When we say contact, the arising of consciousness is dependent on the sense door and sense object. With the meeting of the 3, there is contact. So understand contact. So I see an apple. The apple is sense object. You see with the eye. That eye is a sense organ. You're aware of the apple. That is the sense eye consciousness. Okay? So eye consciousness, the eye and the apple, this is contact. Okay? Now, so I asked you, you see with your eyes or you see with your mind? You see your mind. Awareness of this. You see, if you have the organ and the apple, but if your consciousness, you don't pay attention to the apple, you don't see it. Sense consciousness, sense object, sense organ, these 3 is contact. Okay? See? Contact. Yeah? Those who attended the 6th sense of 6, you find this very familiar. Now, you take your time to study this. The awareness, yes. The last one, if your mind is very noisy, sometimes you get carried away by your thinking and you live life in accordance with the impact, the thoughts, and of your mind. Instead of mind controlling thoughts, it's the other way around, thoughts controlling mind. The mind just runs. And the moment you become aware of your thinking, where do you think you are? You are at now. Correct? So when you are meditating, you are training the mental muscle to be able to bring your mind back to the present moment, to learn how to be able to let go of unnecessary thinking. So your mind, with thoughts is of deliberate thinking. Okay? These five faculties, Brahmin, have each a different sphere, a different field, and do not experience each other's fields. What five? The eye faculty, the nose faculty. Okay. Correct? Remember these five? Now, Brahmin, these five faculties, having separate spheres and separate fields, do not experience each other's sphere and field, have the mind as their refuge, and the mind experiences their spheres and fields. What does it mean? Remember the sixth sense door, the mind? Now, the mind consciousness not only take the sense object of the five sense doors, it can also take in its own mental object. Correct or not? Huh? What it means is this. Okay? You can read on your own. What it means is this. When you see something, the eye object, you have the organ, you have the eye consciousness, but the mind consciousness also arises because the mind consciousness is where you have what? The perception, the mental proliferation, correct? Vijnana forms the base from which and the medium through which the three other mental aggregates arises and functions. Okay, I'll explain to you again in the next slide. It'll become clearer. Huh? Okay, this one you see, you know. When you know something, awareness from the eye consciousness, you are just being aware. Then later on, the three other aggregates come into play. This is called the mental process. See? Correct? See how all the four mental aggregates come together? Called mental process. Huh? Now, look at this picture. You all have initial awareness of this picture. Look at all the faces. So you're aware of it. Your eye consciousness, eye, organ, and you have your eye sense object. Now you study the picture. You start to think, right? About these parts. Right? Observation. Okay? I wish I was stabbing him. Sorry. Click too fast. Okay? So you can see the other mental aggregates come into play. Now everything happens in lightning speed, but when you are very mindful and you've trained yourself to such an extent, you'll be very, very mindful of the rising, falling of thoughts. You're able to pull yourself back. Okay? And that's the reason why consciousness arises and falls according to the sense objects. Like Bhante Agachita, he teaches open awareness meditation. Now, that is actually very difficult to do open awareness meditation. To me, personally, I feel that unless you have experienced samadhi, it's going to be very hard. Because when you open up your eyes, it's not possible to see the rising and falling of the sense consciousness moving, the mind moving from one to another. Just if your mind is not quiet enough. Most of the time, you just open your eyes and you either deliberately quiet or you're distracted. Okay? So consciousness in itself only arises when there is a sense object, sense consciousness, and a sense organ. When you have contact. 4 mental aggregates. Before I go on the 4 adult aggregates, I need to talk to you about it. Now, is consciousness anicca? Is it permanent? It's impermanent. Is it not? Consciousness arises when there's sense object. You may not agree with me, but okay, can you imagine when was the last time you were in deep sleep? When you were very in deep sleep, when you wake up, right, a few hours have passed and you didn't even know about it, right? That's when your sense doors are all closed. Is it not? All right? So the consciousness, the sense consciousness only arises when there are sense objects and you're aware of it through the sense doors. Now, is it satisfactory or unsatisfactory? It's very unsatisfactory. Let me tell you why. Because of consciousness, you feel that it's a soul. You feel that there is an I. Do I make sense? I'm seeing what? I taste what? Okay, you go to a restaurant, you're eating. After you eat, got music, you listen to the music. Then you have a conversation with your friend. Then you get distracted with your phone. You see, the consciousness rise, fall, rise, fall, rise, fall. So it's continuous. It gives the impression and feeling that it's one continuous entity. Is it not? And because of the consciousness, we allow or trick into thinking that there is an I, a soul. But if you go into samadhi, and when your mind is very, very quiet, you will start to understand this better. That's the reason why Ajahn Sucitto that always advised us that please, take refuge in your awareness. Mind, see, mind. Okay, never mind. Just understand that there is no soul. Okay? You are just made up of a stream of consciousness that arises and falls depending on contact with the outside world. Okay? Clear? Okay. So, it's unsatisfactory because of what it does to you, thinking that it's a self, egotism is bigger, all right? And therefore, harder to let go because you feel that it's a sense of I, mind, and self, when you're simply made up of 5 aggregates. Okay. Now, revision, Vedana is a feeling. It lures, which traps or seduces the mind into seeking or avoiding objects of awareness. Sanya, collector of data and raw material. Sankhara uses data or raw material to produce goods. Correct? And Vijnana, owner of the factory, of overseeing all the other workers. Right? Clear? If you feel there is an I, there's always craving, there's always wanting, likes and dislikes. There's always gratification of I, mind, and self. So again, what is Nama Rupa and what are the 5 aggregates? Rupa is form, Vedana, Sanya, Sankhara, and Vijnana. Summary again. Rupa, 4 elements and the 5 sense doors. So you cannot see this Rupa and understand this Rupa by saying we're just made up of the 4 elements. 4 elements and the 5 sense doors. Then we go into the mental faculty of Vedana, 3 feelings, right, essentially. Pleasant, unpleasant, neutral. On its own, nothing much. It's how we react to it that gives it a whole new dimension. Sanya, labels, identifies, interpret the sense objects. Sankhara is about thinking, it's about intention. Vijnana, awareness through the 6 sense doors. Buddha says that there's nothing much in the 5 aggregates. When you put them out separately, individually, it's anicca, dukkha, and anatta. So he describes, right, the 5 aggregate, the 4 mental aggregates as such. He says that feelings, like a puddle of water, takes any form and shape, can evaporate. Nothing permanent there. And he says that the sanya perception is like a mirage in the forest, in the desert. Sankhara is like fog. You know fog? Mist. And Vijnana is like a magician playing trick on your mind, thinking there's a you when there's no you. So now do you fully understand what Ajahn Chah is saying? The true Eightfold Path is within us, 2 eyes, 2 ears, 2 nostrils, a tongue, and a body. These 8 doors are an entire path, and the mind is the one that walks on the path. Know the doors, examine them, and all the dhammas will be revealed. Sisters, what do we do every day in our lives? Okay. Every day in our lives, we see, we smell, we taste, we hear, we touch, okay, through feelings, we feel, we sleep, and we shit. That's essentially what we do every day. But we don't just do that, do we? We do more than that. We get caught up in feelings, we get caught up in perception, we get caught up in mental proliferation, we identify these aggregates as you. So when some things don't go your way, you get very, very upset. You have a lot of likes and dislikes, you have a lot of craving, you have haves and not haves, and essentially you develop what you call egotism. When things don't get your way, you feel stressed, you feel hurt. How can this happen to me? Why should that person say something about me? So can you understand essentially when you are just 5 aggregates? That person is just another 5 aggregates, vis-a-vis your 5 aggregates. See, brothers and sisters, you understand from today's talk, right, that the world we see around us very much depend on how we label it, how we name it, and how we form theories about it, is it not? If you are dissatisfied with life, it is not because there is a problem with life itself. The problem is because you do not see life in its reality. If you know that external circumstances you cannot control, but you can control how you view the external circumstances. You know too that your own well-being is not dependent on outside factors. It's not dependent on outside world, but it's dependent on how you view the world. That's the reason why you must understand that the outside world is just an extension of your physical senses. The outside world is just an amplification of your senses, and that's all. That is why the Buddha taught us that to fully understand our mind, we need to see our minds through the 5 senses. All right? Now, if you take out each aggregate on its own, there is really nothing there. But because you've identified and cling onto the 5 aggregates, you develop egotism. When a little bit of things don't go your way, you get seriously very upset. So for seasoned meditators, what is the first thing you will realize? The reason why 5 aggregates is very close to my heart and Siew's heart is because we get to see Nama and Rupa from contemplating the 5 aggregates in Samadhi. Never mind if you don't understand what I'm talking about. But this is very important for vipassana contemplation if you want to progress on the path. Okay. Now, conclusion. The mind is simply a characteristic of sense experience, is it not? If you can realize that you are just mental and bodily processes working together, you're just that, huh? Reacting every day to feelings, perception, mental proliferation, sense consciousness rising and fall. If you can see and realize this, all right, and you can in Samadhi actually see it happening, then you will see non-self. And when you see non-self, there is no problem with self. There is no self to suffer. Nibbana. I mean, I'm trying to make it as simple as I can. Okay, so you have to start understanding who you are, what you are made up of, to fully understand the three universal characteristics. Okay? Any questions? Yes. The mental aggregate of intention. The mental aggregate intention depending on causes and conditions. Yeah. So see yourself as 5 parts. There's no soul making that. And the sankhara depends on perception. 2, it depends on the rupa, it depends on the 6 sense doors, what you see. So everything is dependently arising. There's nothing fixed, no soul. Okay. Yes. Dream? Okay. Dream, when you are dreaming, when you're in sleep, right? When you're dreaming, that means your mind consciousness already got mental object. So you're not in deep sleep. So in Buddhism, no suttas on dreams. So when you're dreaming, that means you're not in deep sleep and you're going to wake up quite soon. So normally the dreams attack the mind. I think it's about an hour before you wake. You know it's about close to waking time already. Your sense consciousness, through the mind door, the mind consciousness arose because of the dreams. Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, very good. That means I was very clear. I tried to make myself very clear. Okay, so thank you all for coming down today to allow me to share this difficult topic.